Good morning, social media. This video is Models and Mentors, Part 8. I have really been enjoying this series, and I've gotten a lot of good response from this series as well. What I'm going to do now is put out one of these messages every Saturday morning. So you can look for these messages on Saturday mornings on Models and Mentors. This is Part 8, and I'm calling this one The Power of Association. As a mentee, if you want to glean from somebody, you got to really understand the power of association. And so as I get into this message, let me kind of provide the context for it. So I was thinking about something my mother taught me and something that King Solomon said in the Bible. So let me give you both. My mother growing up, as I was growing up in East New York, Brooklyn, which, you know, I grew up in the ghetto, like for real, the ghetto. East New York was the murder capital of the murder capital in the 70s and 80s. And that's the environment that I grew up in. And so as I would go outside to play, thankfully she let me go outside to play, but my mother would say to me all the time, "Enséñame con quién andas y te diré quién eres." And she told me that almost every day before I left to go outside. And what she was saying was, if you can show me who you hang with, then I'll tell you who you are. What she was really driving home was the importance of my associations and how I needed to connect with the right people. In Proverbs 13 and 20, King Solomon said that if you associate, basically he was saying that if you associate with wise people, then you'll become wise yourself. But if you associate with fools, then your life is going to lead to destruction. Because basically both wisdom and foolishness can be transferred by association. And that's what I'm going to deal with on today's video, really on the wisdom side. So I have two nuggets that I'll share with you on today. And so let me get into those two. So the first one is that when you're around the right people, you're going to pick up the right things. This is what really the whole crux of mentorship is all about. You want to be associated with the right people so that they can mentor you and they can teach you the right things. But listen, my point was when you're around the right people, you're going to pick up the right things. So I'm not saying there's some things that your mentors are going to teach you, which is great. But there's some things that if you associate yourself with them and you're around them and you're connected to them and you're gleaning from them and you're observing the outcome of their well-spent lives, then there's some things that you're going to pick up along the way. And I'm saying pick up. These are things that they didn't necessarily have to teach you. You just picked it up by observing them. So some things are taught, and you know, thank God for that, but many things are just caught. And when you're around the right people, you're going to pick up the right things. You're going to catch some stuff. You're going to glean some stuff. You're going to pull some stuff from them. You will catch some things that they didn't teach you. You will catch some things that are non-verbal. So what you, as a believer, and as a person that wants to grow and to develop into the man, the woman that God has called and destined, designed, and desires for you to be, you want to make sure that you are being exposed to greatness, that you are exposing yourself to the type of people that you want to be like. And this type of exposure is best in person. But let me just say, I was thinking about this morning. Even if you can't get around the person in, you know, if you don't have a personal relationship, even though it's best to be in person, because when you're in person, you're going to glean some things and you just hear the way that they talk, the way that they respond to situations, the way that they deal with challenges and problems. You glean some stuff, things they didn't turn around and say, "Hey, listen, let me teach you." No, they didn't have to teach you. You just gleaned it from them, right? But let me just say this, that in 2019, you can glean in other ways, even though you may not necessarily be connected directly to the person. In 2019, you can glean from them on if they're putting out media content. You can glean from them if they wrote books. While it is best to be around greatness in person, let me just say this, that you can be around great people or associate yourself with great people through the content that they created. I'll give you two examples from books. So I remember many years ago when I read Colin Powell's autobiography. Now, here you have a person that was the who was born in the Bronx and who is a child of immigrant parents from Jamaica. And he joined the military, went up through the ranks, and retired as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And obviously, we know what he went on to do even after that. So when you think about this type of person, this is greatness personified. I can glean a lot. Now, when you have somebody like Colin Powell who takes his life's work, to that point anyway, and puts it in a book, then why would you not want to read it? And as you're reading the book, once again, some things are taught. Some things he said in the book, but many things are not. You just kind of catch it like, wow. When he was talking about how he was a child of immigrants and he didn't really know his family in Jamaica. And then when he went to Jamaica, what that was like, man, that's kind of like, I grew up, I did know my family in the Dominican Republic, but for many years I hadn't been a DR. So when he was talking about going to Jamaica and things that he gleaned, guess what? When I went to the Dominican Republic, and I went to go see my aunts and uncles. And I wanted to go back to my grandmother's house, and just being on the land where my grandmother was and where my mother was raised. And I don't know, that's like ground zero for me. It is a grounding thing for me to just go back and be there and just remember as a little kid running around this what back then I thought was a big hill, but now it's just a little hill. And just being there, I kind of gleaned that from Colin Powell in his book when he was talking about his trip to Jamaica. There's some things that you glean, that you pick up from people. I remember reading Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts has two autobiographies. One that he wrote young in his ministry or in his life, and then one later. And I've read both. And you talk about somebody amazing, Oral Roberts. I mean, this guy was on television preaching the gospel in the 60s before anybody did it. I mean, he was filling out this tent and he was performing miracle signs and wonders through the power of God. It was God through him, but he was doing this at the risk of looking foolish and at the sake of being criticized. And then God told him to shut all of that down at one point and start a university. And he didn't know anything about starting a university. And so when I look at people like that, my God, and they put their life's work in a book, then you want to read that book. You want to glean from people. You want to associate yourself with them. You want to be exposed to them in whatever way that you can. If it's in person, that's great. But if not, if they put it in a book or if they're putting out media content, then get it. Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, puts out a lot of media content online that I learn a lot from Gary V. I haven't met him in person, but he's putting out content. I learn a lot from him, right? So you should learn from whoever is putting out that content, because that content, those books or that media content, if you're connecting yourself with the right people or in association directly in person, is going to make you want to dream bigger. And that's the point, which leads me to my second and final point. When you're around the right people, it's going to fuel a passion in your heart to grow. What you want to do is be around people that make you feel inadequate. I mean, literally, like in the right way. You want to be around someone that once you're around them, you're like, my God, I need to pray more. I need to study more. I need to work harder, because just being around that person made you feel inadequate in the right way. It stirred up something on the inside of you that makes you want to work harder, that makes you want to grow. If you're the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room, unless you're in the room to make an impartation to other people. But you're not going to grow in that room because you're the smartest person in the room. You want to be around people that are going to make you want to go higher and stronger and deeper. Let me just say this. As an example, Apostle Tony Brazelton, who's my spiritual father. So I'm talking about people in the military or in the marketplace or in your marriage or in ministry. You should have mentors in all of these areas, right? Now, on the ministry side, Tony Brazelton is someone who, for me, God has connected me to him and him to me. I remember one time just being in his presence. I was with him. I mean, I'm with him all the time now, but I just remember this particular time where he was teaching and I was on the front row. And every time he stood in front of me, the anointing, I mean, the power of God that's on his life, it just caused me to start weeping, and I was weeping uncontrollably, and that just really made me want to pull on the anointing that's on his life, even on a greater level. And let me say this: when you are comfortable enough to say what I just said, right? As a grown man, I was weeping because I was in the presence of someone who has an anointing on their life that makes me want to go deeper. The last thing I'll say as I close is, if you really want to grow, you want to be a good mentee, you got to develop thick skin, because people will call you a flunky. When you say stuff like what I just said, they go, oh yeah, he's just a flunky. This person is just around. He's General such and such's guy, or he's Pastor such and such's guy, and he's just a flunky. He's just around that person. Listen, I will drive people, I'll pick up their bags, I'll do whatever just to be in the presence of greatness, because I know that wisdom can be transferred by association. I'm telling you, as a person who wants to grow, you want to get in the presence of great people at all costs, learn from them, allow them to rub off on you, glean, be around people that make you want to grow to another level, that make you feel inadequate, and then develop thick skin. No matter what people say, don't worry about them. They're in the peanut gallery for a reason. Those people that talked about me, they're still there. So just ignore them and press forward so that you can be the man, the woman that God has called you to be. This is Models and Mentors, Part 8. God bless you.